I get discouraged for sure, and I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Dale Parrish, and welcome to COS Indiana Live. I'm the VPC for Indiana. That's Virtual Program Coordinator. So we're very good on acronyms. So you'll probably hear us throw those around quite a bit during the broadcast. But anyway, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hello, Ken.
Hi, Dale. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Ken is the SCC, the State Communications Coordinator. So glad to have you tonight, Ken. Now, Ken will be monitoring our viewer comments and questions tonight. So if you have any comment or questions as a viewer, please feel free to enter those in the chat section, and Ken will be monitoring those and looking for any that are applicable for us to entertain. So Ken, let's check the numbers real quick. This is broadcast number 209. And Ken, you've been on board for 74 of them.
Cruising right along. Cruising right
along, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Just celebrated our 200th broadcast not too many weeks ago. So we're now working on the next 100. So we'll probably, we'll get there, I'm sure. Let's hope we do, huh, Ken?
You got to keep pushing, Dale. You got to keep plugging away.
That's right. That's right. Well, Ken, let's look at what we have as far as the lineup tonight. Let me go ahead and make that a little bigger view. We've got some great guests tonight. We always do, but we've got some great guests tonight, as usual.
First up, I'd call them heavy hitters, Dale. I'd call them heavy hitters. That's quite a lineup. That's
good. I like that. I like that terminology. First up is going to be Mr. Brett Sturley. Brett is the state director for the state of Missouri for Convention of States, and Brett has been doing a podcast in Missouri for some time now. And I wanted to bring him on and give him an opportunity to talk about his podcast. He's kind of in between making some changes right now, but I want him to an opportunity to tell us about his podcast. He's had some really great guests appear on his podcast, so looking forward to hearing about that. Our next guest is a young lady that I think you all are going to very, very much enjoy, Esther Cook. And Esther is heading up a new youth-oriented program for Convention of States, Indiana Grassroots Leadership. And Indiana is one of the 2 states that are involved in this program to begin with. The other state is Ohio. So we'll bring on Esther, and wonderful young lady, and you'll get to meet her and hear about our program that's coming out right now. It's being implemented. Finally, we have Catherine Zemanek. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly. Indiana has just joined a new region in Convention of States. It's called the Flyover Region. So we'll be able to learn from Catherine why it's called the Flyover Region. I think I know, but Catherine is the regional director, and we'll introduce Catherine to everyone and get familiarized with what is going to be happening in the new region as far as with the state of Indiana. So And we've got a little contributor segment tonight. Ken, Dale Tipton will be giving us a little contributor segment on term limits. So that ought to be very interesting. And so we'll be bringing Dale on. I believe I got him scheduled for right after Brett, after our first interview. So
great.
Ought to be a good lineup tonight, Ken.
I think so. It's looking forward to all these contributors and all these segments. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good night. So
okay, let's get to our first guest this evening, Mr. Brett Story. So let's bring Brett on. Hello, Brett.
Hello, Dale. Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me
Brett.
on this evening. Appreciate it.
Good. Is it my volume or is it his volume that's a little low?
I think Brett, if you could hit your volume up a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay. Let's see. How's that? Is it a little
That's
better?
good.
Excellent.
Much better.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Well, Brett, I tried to compliment you as much as possible as far in the introduction to you. But is there anything that you think I left out that maybe I should say?
I know that was probably tough for you there, Dale. I mean, we banter back and forth quite a bit, and so I love you as a brother, and I really appreciate it, and I just appreciate being your teammate and being on to be able to speak to our folks here this evening, and
great.
Yeah,
love to have you. Glad you could join us tonight, Brett. Brett is the only other state director with less hair than I do have. So, except for the facial. I couldn't pass it up, Brett. I just couldn't.
So this is the way this is going to go. Okay. All right. Ding, 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 ding. Let's go.
No, just kidding. Well, Brett, I always, whenever I have any leadership individuals on our broadcast, we always ask the individual to tell us their COS story, not your life story, Brett. Okay. Your how, when, why you came to get involved in Convention of States. So what's your story, Brett?
Well, Convention of States is about almost 20% of my life story. So we'll just go with that 20%.
You too, huh? You too, huh?
For sure. No, I first heard about Convention of States, about Article 5 back in the summer of 2013, like so many people have with listening to Mark Levin. And he was teasing his upcoming book, and I was trying to figure out exactly what he was talking about. And then once it was released in August, basically in conjunction with the launch of Convention of States Action, serendipitously, he mentioned Article 5. I thought, well, I've read the Federalist Papers. I've read the Anti-Federalist Papers, most of them. I've read the Constitution. I don't remember anything about this. And so I cracked open my copy of the Constitution, looked through there, and I'm like, oh, well, sure enough, it's been hiding in plain sight for 200 plus years. Never knew anything about it. And so started studying it a little bit more and studied quite a bit, and actually did not sign the petition to start volunteering with Convention of States until the fall of 2014. I was a little bit leery because I'd been involved in a few other political organizations in the past, and they all kind of went the same way. And they would tell you, here are your talking points, and here's what we want you to do. And what really sold me on Convention of States is whenever I was going back through and I was looking and doing my research, and the research at our makeshift website at that point in time, through that information we had, it all drew me back towards original writings, back towards Madison's notes, and back towards the Federalist Papers, and looking at the Constitution. And that really struck me that, one, it was an organization that actually had confidence in your ability to actually read and comprehend what you're reading. And second of all, wouldn't refer you back to some newspaper article or something in the Federalist in a conservative review or some kind of conservative publication to tell you what you were reading, what it meant. Right. And I thought that was really good. So that's really kind of what gave me my official hook and interest into being a volunteer.
Yeah. Mark Levin played a big role in my in my introduction to Convention of States too, with his book Liberty Amendments. So that's what kind of got me. It just hit me at the right time. I was dissatisfied with some things that were going on in our country at the time, and his book just really hit me at the right time, and that's what brought me into it as well. So, okay, good deal. Well, Brett, I know we wanted to talk about this podcast that you do in Missouri. Now, can I go ahead and put the name of it up? This is a new name, right? Better tell us about this now.
It's still available. I've done, I think, 46 or 47 episodes, and it's been on a hiatus since last October, just due to some other time conflicts and everything. But it's not a COS asset. It's a personal podcast. I give a little bit more latitude to talk about some different things, but I do link much of what we discussed back to the Constitution, back to history, and back to Article 5. And we've had, for instance, a couple of the old name is called Freedom's Call, and it's still searchable out there on Apple Podcasts. The new name is not completely official here yet. We will hopefully be launching here soon. But yeah, we have had some great guests. We've had one of our guests in the middle of 2020 in July was actually Dr. Jeff Burkey, and he was one of America's frontline doctors, and he was a Convention of State supporter, friend of Mark Meckler, and also I interviewed him the week that. I apologize. My dogs, I don't know if you can hear them in the background.
I was wondering who had the.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was Ken or you. That's okay. No problem.
My security system is going off. So there you go. But yeah, Dr. Jeff Burkey, he was actually one of the America's Frontline Doctors that testified in front of Congress for Ron Johnson.
Really?
In July of 2020 about COVID. And if you remember back, it was on a Monday, and then they went out on the steps of Capitol Hill, and they had about 20 or 25 million views in 24 hours. And then YouTube took their video down because they weren't preaching the company line that the government wanted everyone to talk about.
Right.
And so it was very interesting. That's a particularly interesting podcast to go back and look at from where we are now. Back to that point, a lot of his comments were very, very prescient. We've had David Barton on for a 3-part interview talking about all things David Barton, various state legislators, even a couple of national legislators, county clerks talking about election, banking, ESG, all kinds of different state and national issues.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. I tell you, the podcast we do, we pretty much focus on Indiana volunteers, but you seem to really cover a wide range of different topics. That's really good. That's really good. Now, am I correct? This is I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here, but this is you're transitioning to a new name, right?
Well, yes, not a new pronoun, but I'm not transitioning to a new pronoun or anything like that. No. And no, this will be. I guess we got a little bit of glare here.
Yeah,
get the sun coming through your window there. I guess
sun is coming through. There we go. How about that?
There we go.
Sorry about that. So yeah, we're transitioning to this name, and that should hopefully be up and trademarked and all that kind of good stuff here momentarily. But yes, Political Mass Podcast is what the new name will be, and will be up on Google Play, Apple Podcasts. I think Stitcher's going away, but we'll be on a variety of platforms just like we were before. We'll have our own YouTube channel, a Rumble channel, website set up, and Twitter page or X page or whatever they whatever Elon is going to call it that week. We'll be accessible on multiple digital platforms.
Now, when we use the term podcast, and I don't know which is correct, quite honestly, but when we use the term podcast, we're referring to just an audio interchange. But you're actually doing audio as well as video, aren't you?
Correct.
I mean,
yes.
And are you broadcasting live, or are you just recording and then broadcasting the recording?
It's recorded and edited to get to condense the content down a little bit, and we don't really have a specific length of podcast that we're targeting. We try to get in the new launch will be around in the 25 to 30 minute area. It just depends on how much news is going on that week. Obviously, we have lots of news stories going on here now. We'll be rolling into the election, so there'll be definitely a lot of material to cover. And the intent is to do it on a weekly basis, which is sometimes a little bit of a challenge, but that's what we're going to try to go back to.
As you know, Brett, it takes a lot of time to do these things, doesn't it? It takes a lot of time. Actually, it takes more time in preparing for the event, and then afterwards you have all the distribution tasks that you have to take care of, and that's even more time consuming. Actually,
it does.
This is the easy part right now. We're doing
well. It's the easy part if you prepared for it, because I don't want to just have 30 minutes to where I drone on about something and nobody listens to it, and including me. I want to add some value and add some color, and that's really what the guests are there for. I'll fly solo on some news items, but then I always want to try to bring in an interview for the most part to give it a little bit extra color and a little bit more subject matter expertise on whatever we're discussing.
Quickly, any particular guests that you're working on that you would like to line up?
Sure. I will be reaching back out to Dr. Burkey to see if we can do a follow up to what our podcast or episode from 3 years ago, and just kind of see where we are now. Also, Congressman Eric Burleson. He is a 7th District Congressman from here in Missouri. He was our House sponsor and Senate sponsor of our Convention of States legislation when we were going through the Missouri legislature. And he has been, promoted or demoted to go to D.C., however you want to look at it. But he's on the House Oversight Committee looking into government overreach and some of the restrictions on digital media that the bureaucracy has been undertaking. So he'll have some very, very good information and some good insight there. So we'll do that along with some other various Missouri statewide office holders.
Good. Sounds good. Can you tell us a few of the platforms where your podcast can be found?
Sure.
If people want to look you up.
Absolutely. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can search for us in either of those locations. Stitcher. I'm trying to think. Those are the main players. We're on like a total of probably 6 or 7 platforms.
All right. Okay.
Probably if whatever your favorite is that you use, we will probably be able to be found there. And like I said, the old name was called Freedom's Call Brett Sturley, and so that's how you can search for it. And we'll be flipping everything over to the new new name.
That was Freedom's Call was the old name, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned Stitcher was going away, and I believe that's true, isn't it, Brett?
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, but anywhere else you do a search, you probably would come up with it. Yep.
Well, Brett, thank you very much for coming on and telling us about this. My hat's off to you that you've decided to do this, and that you have been doing it, quite honestly. So I want to wish you the best of luck.
Well, you as well, and great job here in Indiana. And I'm a few episodes behind you guys, but you know, I'm gonna try to catch up a little bit.
All right, Brett. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Well, that sounds exciting, doesn't it, Ken?
I tell you, Brett's got his got it labeled up, and it sounds like he's got it all geared up to run smooth when he gets back into it. So we're looking forward to tuning in.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, listen, why don't we take a little break here, and I'd like to play a contributors segment for us, and this is from our state director, Dale Tipton. We call his segments Dale's Directives. So let's do that, Ken, and then we'll come back and bring on our next guest, Esther Cook. So let's take a listen to Dale here.
Hello, this is Dale Tipton with Convention of States. As a Convention of States volunteer, one of the things that we're serious about promoting and changing with a constitutional amendment is term limits. We have people that have served in Congress for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And we've had several instances lately that shows why this may not be a good idea. On the one hand, whenever people do eventually retire from Congress, you find that they have accumulated some extreme amount of wealth compared to when they began. How did this happen? Well, I will leave that to your imagination. But the other thing that comes up, not only about enriching ourselves or if you're serving in that office, but the other thing is just a matter of age. And I don't believe in age discrimination, but I do believe that if you can't fully function as a person, as a representative, that there may be trouble. Examples: President Joe Biden. Joe's a man of advanced age, and he has shown several instances lately where, well, actually since he's been in the presidency, where he seems to be confused. He seems to not think properly. He seems to forget things. He seems to misspeak. And all of these seem to be a lack of the processing that would go forward in a perfectly healthy human brain. He seems to have some deficiencies there. I'm not a doctor, just an observer. That's just my opinion. Recently, this past week, Senator Dianne Feinstein of California was voting on a particular item of legislation. She's, I think, north of 90. Her legislative aides were whispering to her to say aye whenever it came time to vote. She was obviously not at full capacity, still trying to do her job, but really incapable of doing such. In another example, Senator Mitch McConnell was giving a speech when he suddenly froze, was quiet for 20 or so seconds. People came to him and asked him, what was wrong. He was eventually helped away from the podium. Came back sometime later saying that he was okay, everything was all right. Mitch is also a man of advanced age. If you can serve and serve at the top of your ability, you should. And that's what the American people deserve. If you are hindered because of your age and your mental faculties, then it's time to step down. Term limits, as proposed by the Convention of States, would assist in that because it would remove people like this from public office and allow us to be governed with the assistance of representatives who are at full capacity. That's the thing that we should shoot for. We should always give the government our very best representatives so that we, the people who put them in our places, can expect the very best from them. Thanks again for listening. Bye-bye.
Ken, I know what you're going to say. I know you're going to mention about my advancing age, aren't you?
Well, Dale,
Right. I knew you were going to say something.
I could bring up a couple of instances, but I think at this point, I think because you agreed to have one of those cognitive tests, we'll let you slide for now.
I agreed to that. Did I?
I think you did.
I did.
You don't even remember that, do you?
I don't recall that at all. I think something's going on here. Anyway,
I think our state director demanded that anybody over a certain age take that test. So I think that's when you agreed.
The former state director?
No. Our present one. He's got you have a few years on our present one.
Oh, see, there you go again. All right. Okay, well, let's bring some youth into this program here.
I think it's about time we bring on some youth.
And let's bring on Esther Cook. Hello, Esther.
Hello.
Hi, Esther.
Hope you can save us here.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Esther. It's nice having you on. What is your official title, Esther?
So for right now, I'm the state internships coordinator. So
Okay.
basically coordinating the internships at the state level.
Okay, and the program, have I got it right here? The Indiana Grassroots Leaders Internship Program.
That's right. Yeah, it's a little long, but
It's a little long. That's right.
just to practice that cognitive ability.
See,
I don't-
see what you've got.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to get into another acronym. The IGLIP. It's not too bad.
I was immediately looking at making an acronym out of that. Yes, that's right. That's good. Well, Esther, as with all leadership individuals, as I mentioned with Brett, let's hear your COS story.
Yeah, so I applied for the Emerging Leaders Internship last year. So that's the national internship at Convention of States. And really the reason why I wanted to apply is that I had realized during COVID, I was towards the end of my college days, and they were deciding to do a lot of things that seemed a little bit like government overreach to me. And all of a sudden I was like, I need to be more involved in being we the people involved in government. I'm actually a professional classical musician, so I'm not super interested in politics per se, but I believe that it's important for every American citizen to step up and be involved. And so when I saw Convention of States, I really resonated with the constitutional basis for our mission of really returning the balance of power in our government back to the founders' intention. And also just, it was so well structured. I was like, oh, if I have 3 hours to spend each week, I don't have to spend 2 of them trying to think, what do I do? What would be effective? And so Convention of States really put that structure in so that I could know the time that I'm spending is well spent, it's meaningful, and I'm really impacting the future of liberty in our nation.
All right, great. Where did you go to college?
I went to Peabody Institute in Baltimore, Maryland.
Now, didn't you tell me, I'm giving everybody a little background, you grew up in Spain, am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah, my parents have been missionaries there for over 30 years. And so I grew up over there. So yeah, being involved in local American government has been a relatively new thing for me since I've been back in the States.
Very interesting.
We definitely don't want to be socialist like Spain. Just putting it out there.
Well, you bring some good experience. Well, give us let's start off with just kind of a general overview of the program that you're heading up here for us.
Yeah, for sure. So this is an 8-month internship program. It runs from September 18th through May 10th of next year, obviously. And the time commitment is about 5 to 10 hours a week. So there's a mix of in-person activities and virtual activities. And basically it's for high school juniors or seniors through college. And, you know, if you're a recent graduate, we're not going to kick you out just based on that. So that's kind of the age range we're targeting. I'm really hoping to, really our mission with this is to engage the, you know, upcoming generation, identifying and training leaders in the fight for liberty. It's so awesome to see a lot of people involved, and yet sometimes, you know, for us younger folks, it can be hard to really see the consequences of the way our nation is going. And I think it's important to awaken to that situation and take on the torch of liberty that you all are passing to us.
Now,
Awesome.
Esther, am I correct that this program is limited right now to just 2 states, right? Ohio and Indiana.
Yeah. So my ambitions tend to be greater than what I can do. So I decided not to start in all 50. So we started in Ohio this past summer and ran our first pilot program. And now for the year long, we're expanding to include Indiana, which I'm super excited about. And so this internship will be running concurrently in both Ohio and Indiana. So participants would be working with the respective state teams. So if you're applying from Indiana, you would work in Indiana. If you're applying in Ohio, you'd work in Ohio. But then the really cool thing is that we get to come together for some of the leadership development calls.
Okay, now you told me that, am I correct that there is some online studies involved, right?
Yeah, so there's basically 2 main components to the internship. So there's the practical grassroots experience that you get, and then there's a lot of really cool leadership development and constitution studies that we do online. So for that part, that would be all of the interns, the small group, but going through Constitution, like what's in the Constitution, what should we be doing with that knowledge, really getting a sense for the principles our nation was founded on. Diving into Western civilization and philosophy. What are some of these great ideas that have made our nation great? And
now, Esther, I mean, won't this be repetitive? They've already gotten all this information in their schooling, right?
well,
I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Go ahead.
yeah, most polls that I've seen, even if they got it in the school, the retention is pretty low, I would say. Most people would not pass a basic. I remember David Barton, I believe it was saying that it was a staggering percentage of Americans couldn't even name all 3 branches of our government. I think that's pretty basic.
My guess is most of the students didn't get any of it. My guess would be, but if they got any, it was very, very short, or it was mixed in with another course of some type. At least that's been my experience. But
Absolutely. So regardless of the experience, I mean, I've gone through some of this material more than once, and each time you just get more good stuff out of it. I think all good literature and art tends to be that way. The more you look at it, the more you study it, you continue to glean new information. So whether you had bad education in civics, or whether you're like, I can, recite the whole Constitution, I think there's something here for everyone.
I think you mentioned to me that servant leadership is also one of the studies involved, right?
Yes. So really excited about that. So we do that in the spring and go through Servant Leadership by David Kunert. It's a really fantastic resource. I think just for all of life, it helps in the grassroots. If you go into politics, if you're a person, if you have relationships with any other humans, it's going to help you. So most of us have that.
Most of us do. That's right. All right. Now, so that'll be online studies will be intermingled throughout the program. Is that it? It's
so it's a weekly call. So somewhere between 1 and 2 hours a week, and then a little bit of time outside of that for maybe reading a chapter in the book, or watching a video of whatever curriculum we're going through.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's half of it.
Esther, if you don't mind, we have a question from the chat room that we'd like to throw up here. See if we can answer that for you. Certain Elf, Charlie C would like to know if there's any cost to the internship.
Thank you, Charlie, for that question. So no, there's a lot of value we're putting into this, a lot of great leadership training, constitutional training. So it is completely free to participate in the internship.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay. Now tell us a little bit about what you envision the interns doing when they're working with the state team. I know this is going to kind of vary, but what do you envision there?
Yeah, so the other part, so other than the online part, is each intern will be matched with a member or a couple of members of the state team that they're applying in. So for Indiana, for example, it might be a regional captain, a district captain, a legislative liaison. It really depends, partly due to the needs of the state team, and that's different. Every state is different, which is part of the beauty of it. And also every intern is different. So we try to get a good match, somebody that's local to your area, so that you can really get that hands-on experience in your local community. So different types of things that the intern might be doing. So sometimes it's calling new supporters, just welcoming them to Convention of States. Sometimes it's helping with local meetings. Maybe a district captain is putting on a meeting, or helping staff a booth at a local fair. They're having a lot of those going on this summer. It can really look like a whole lot of different things. Pretty much anything you can think of, really do it.
Just a question just popped in my mind. Might we have more than one intern, or are you open to having more than one?
That's a great question. Yeah. So this is, we don't have a specific number, but definitely we're looking to have a few interns for each state.
Because I would envision that, with different things happening in different regions of our state, and different region captains, district captains, that with the interns could be bouncing around with different teams involved. So I could see where we could have it more than one. All right, well, we're kind of winding down here, but I want to put this up. This is the website where interested people can find out more information, right? And actually make application. There's an application link in this website too.
Absolutely. So you can go to this, it's basically conventionofstates.com/Indiana internship. And you can find out a bunch of the details we've talked about, some that we haven't. So definitely encourage all of you who are viewing this to check it out. Even if you're not in the age range to do it, maybe you know somebody who is. And there's a nice big blue button. I personally really like the big blue button, so you can click on that and apply, and hope to see your application in there.
And I think we need to make it known now that there's a window to accept applications. Am I right? And that window closes on September 1st.
That's correct. Yes. So the deadline to apply is September 1st. We'll be starting the program on September 18th. You don't have to wait until August 31st at 11:59 p.m. to apply. I encourage, if you have any interest at all, to go ahead and apply, this week, next week. But it will be closing the 1st of September.
All right. Great. Well, this is exciting. I hope we have some people step up to take advantage of this, because obviously we need to find ways to get more youth involved in our movement, and this is I think an excellent way. Ken, is there anything else? Any other comments or anything that
we had one other question. Might not have heard. Maybe it was mentioned earlier. I don't know, but we had a question concerning the age. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. Dale was actually answering that, but I'm going to go ahead and put the question up anyway. Was what the age range was, because I think Dale was talking about the school age. So if you could give us an actual number age group, that would help.
Yeah, so I believe I don't actually have legal room to do that for some
Okay.
reason. I don't know, but they've told me not to. So
That's fine.
not
That's
get us
fine.
into deep water. But again, it's like high school, junior age through college, graduate. And if you're in between high school and college or just graduated college, definitely feel free to apply.
Great. Gotta stay within those boundaries. And I do have one other question, which is totally unrelated. I know you mentioned you were a musician. What kind of musician are you?
So I'm a classical musician. I play cello and piano, and so I teach and perform.
Wonderful. Well, you know what? We might have to get in touch with you. Maybe you can supply us with a little bit of program background music. Maybe I can get you recorded.
I did enjoy the intro. That was pretty epic.
Maybe we can find a spot for you, and maybe I can get you recorded so we can do a little use some of your other talent along with what you're doing in Indiana.
That's a good idea, Ken. Good deal. All right, Esther. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Enjoyed talking with you. Welcome to Convention of States, and I hope our broadcast tonight helps generate some applicants for this program. I think it's a great program. So thank you very much.
Here's to much success.
Have a good evening.
Take care.
Nice young lady, Ken.
Very nice.
Yeah. Speaking of nice young ladies,
well, you sure know how to butter the toast, don't you, Dale?
I sure do. Let's bring on our regional director, Catherine Ziminek. Catherine, am I pronouncing your last name correctly? I got you muted here. Hold on here. There you go.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's actually pronounced Zamanek.
Oh, boy, we were way off.
That's okay. It's
Zamanek.
It's Zamanek, yes.
Zamanek. All right. Well, excellent. So, Catherine is the regional director for the flyover region. And we're going to get into why it's called the flyover region here pretty soon. But as you have seen with the other two guests, Catherine, we want to hear your COS story. So tell us your story.
Okay. Well, pretty similar to Brett's story about Mark Levin. I heard about the Liberty Amendments and I got it and started reading it, but it was a disconnect for me. I didn't really understand what we could do with it. And then a friend reached out to me and she said, "Hey, have you heard about Convention of States?" And I said, "No, what is it?" And she said, "Well, they want to use Article 5. And I said, "Article 5? What's Article 5? And she said, "Come to this meeting." So I went to the meeting. It was in a church in Lansing. And there were probably about 80 people there. It was just a wonderful experience of people who felt so hopeless about our country and wanted to do something. And lo and behold, Mark Meckler was there. And you're probably wondering, well, what was Mark Meckler doing in Lansing, Michigan? He had just dropped off his daughter at Hillsdale College. And so he drove up to be at this meeting with us, and listening to Mark was just such an inspiration to me. So I started studying it. They asked me to come on board. I came on board as a district captain and the legislative liaison. I had a little bit of background in politics with the local parties, and I knew some folks in Lansing, so they thought it would be a good fit for me to serve in that role. Then I became the state director in Michigan, and then a little over 4 years ago, I became a regional director.
All right. Well, cool. Well, good deal. Well, tell us, why is your region called the flyover region?
That's a good question. Well, I'm a Jason Aldean fan. And he has a song called The Flyover States, and it's one of my favorite songs, actually. And one day I was flying out to Iowa to work in the legislature there and meet with the team. And I just looked down and I thought to myself, wow, it's exactly how he described it in this song. And but it's so beautiful, and it's real federalism. That's what it is. You know, whatever they do on the East Coast or the West Coast, there's all these states in between that are doing wonderful things, and they're beautiful, and the people are beautiful there. And so I thought, hey, capture the name, make it ours, be proud of it. And so I asked the team, what do you think of calling us the flyover states? And they said, yeah, we love it. So that's how we got it.
That's how it works. So, well, tell us then, what are the states that comprise the flyover region?
Well, forgive me, I have to check my list because I have what's called the vowel states, right? Including Indiana. Indiana is a new addition for me in our region. So welcome, Indiana, folks. We're so thrilled to have you in the flyover region. We also have Iowa, Ohio. Right now, we temporarily have Idaho that I'm helping with because we could pass. Then we've got Minnesota, Wisconsin, and my home state of Michigan. I didn't have Michigan before. I just got Michigan, and
Really?
Super excited to have Michigan in our region.
I didn't know Idaho was part of this region.
Kind of silly. It doesn't seem to be a regional, thing if you put Idaho in there. But I have great connection with the folks out in Idaho, and we've worked really hard. So they just thought the best thing to do is to have me and Dave Schneider, who is the other RD for Idaho, work together. And that's what we're doing. Dave has the wild west region, and Idaho kind of fits in the Wild West. So, we're just transitioning.
Yeah, it makes more sense. But now, of course, Indiana's a past state.
As is Wisconsin.
And Wisconsin, okay. Mm-hmm. But now Idaho are they close to passing possibly?
Well, we haven't filed yet in Idaho, but what we're doing is we're building a strong legislative team out there, a coalition of legislators. And we're pretty optimistic about Idaho at this point, that we've been doing all the right things with the help of Rick Santorum and Mike Ferris, and of course, Mark Meckler. And Rita Peters, Rita's really the lady behind the curtain genius of legislative strategy. So we've just worked really hard. The team's worked really hard, and we're hoping and praying that this January is going to be the magic.
Good. We were trying to at one point we were trying to get someone from Idaho to come on and talk to us about what's going on in their state and what their efforts are. So maybe we can make that happen yet.
I can help you do that.
Yeah. Well, Catherine, tell us what are some of the challenges for the flyover region? What are top 2 or 3 challenges that as regional director that you want to focus on?
Sure.
In the coming months.
Well, I really hope to help the 2 past states work on non-COS legislation during this session coming up in January. So I've made a commitment to the team in both teams in Indiana and Wisconsin to do that. We have 2 blue states now, Minnesota and Michigan. Now, I don't like to say Michigan's a blue state, and Minnesota really isn't either. In Michigan, the Democrats just have a 2-person majority in both the House and the Senate. So it's very possible that could flip, and it's as narrow in Minnesota as well. So the challenge is to get the right people elected. We want to help with elections and get COS supporters in those seats. That's really is a big challenge. And then Iowa has been just a blessing for me. I love working in Iowa, but we've had a little opposition with the John Birch Society there, and we're making slow progress, but we're certainly making great progress. We passed out of both committees in Iowa. We're very much alive in Iowa, so it's going to take some effort to really persuade those legislators. And we had 3 wonderful legislators from Iowa at the simulation, and they're all 3 working really hard as champions there.
Have they? Is the Iowa State Fair over now?
Just ended Sunday. Yes.
I was going to say that's a pretty big deal. I know
yeah.
You know, we obviously had a presence there.
We did.
I'm sure. Did we get many petitions signed? Do you know?
We did. We had a smaller team this year, but a very excellent expert team on the ground there. So the petition numbers will be in the thousands. Their big number was 6,500 petitions from a couple of years ago.
I remember
and
that.
Yep. And of course, those petitions aren't just from Iowans. Lots of people come to the state fair there in Iowa. It was no different this year. Most of the presidential candidates were there on the ground, and we had great experiences talking with people and getting those petitions signed. So they're still processing the numbers. As you can well imagine, it's an incredible task to get all of those petition signers into our system and get those petitions scanned in. So it'll take them a while to get that done.
Well, what else? You mentioned working with the past states on non-COS legislation. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we're about self-governance, obviously, and so we want our people to be involved in watching what's going on in their state legislatures. And, we want smaller government. If there's legislation that they're working on at the state level that is not the COS resolution, but the teams would like to support and rally our supporters around, if they can do that, then there's a process that we go through. It's an approval process. We take a look at what the bill is and our resolution is, and our legal team decides if we can indeed get involved in that, and then we rally the troops to support it, just like we would the resolution.
Well, I certainly hope we're talking a little shop here, I guess, but I certainly hope that process is improved upon this next year, because it was a bit frustrating for us here in Indiana, and I'm sure some other states experience the same thing. It's just
it's a number one priority for me to help Indiana.
I think that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Because we, of course, in Indiana, our session is so short that it takes time to obviously to process the proposals and so forth. So anyway, I hope we can find and make some more improvements on the process.
Yeah, that's the other challenge that I have is some of my states are full-time legislatures. Ohio and Michigan, they're full-time legislatures. They'll be going until December of this year. Ohio's ready to file in the Senate. We filed in the House, and then we'll gear up in January, and they'll have a full year to get the resolution passed there.
Yeah.
Yep. So Michigan, again, it's a full-time legislature there. We have a concentrated effort when we have part-time legislatures. We start in January. In fact, Idaho, I think they're done April 1st or somewhere around there. They're completely done, and they go home, and they have jobs, right? So they go home to their home districts.
Yeah, that's kind of the way we are here in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, we got any comments? We're getting ready to kind of wrap up here. Any comments or questions?
I do have one comment from our faithful leader, Dale Tipton. He brought up a comment that I thought we'd like to expand on a little bit. He has a great travel companion / dog. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Catherine?
Sure, I'd love to. So I've never had a dog before, and one day I decided, okay, it's time for me to get a pup. So I ended up getting a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and I named him Mason after the great George Mason. Yeah. He's my buddy. He travels in the car with me. I've even taken him on flights with me, and he usually goes into doggy daycare when I'm at the legislature. But Dale was kind enough to let us come to his home, and Mason played with his dogs, and he's just a buddy. He keeps me company on the road, those long travel schedule that I have on the road. And so he's adapted well to it.
That's great. Got to have a good, faithful partner.
Yeah.
Well, Catherine, we're about ready to wrap up here. Any other challenges or objectives for the region that you want to touch on here before we before we sign off?
Well, I'm super excited for our regional leaders to come to Milwaukee, Wisconsin next month. We're having our regional meeting there. It's actually in Brookfield, which is a little northwest of Milwaukee, but our great state director there in Wisconsin, Art Vinhack, has been just organizing things and scouting great places out for us. So it'll very much be a working 2 days and getting to know each other, helping each other. So I'm just really about building this region so that we can rely on each other, count on each other. We're sort of like family, COS family, and it's just wonderful to see leaders come together, sharing their ideas, their frustrations, and working it out. It's really we the people in action.
Very good. Catherine, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Got
I
a comment
appreciate
from Gary Harbaugh.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that up.
Nice to have you as our new regional director.
Thanks, Gary. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to working with the entire Indiana team.
All right. Same for us. Thank you very much, Catherine. Have a good evening.
Thanks for all you do.
Right now.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.
Very nice lady, Ken. I think she's going to do a great job, I believe.
Yep. Hey, you can't go wrong when you got a great traveling companion that goes along and the inspiration. I think that she's got it all nailed.
Yeah, she does. All right. Well, let's start wrapping up here, Ken. I got a long crawler there going across the screen that I want to mention. Now, our next actual broadcast, like we're doing tonight, that next broadcast will be September 4th. And on September 4th, Monday, September 4th, we're going to have our state director, Dale Tipton, will be coming on to give us kind of an update report on how the state did in the month of August. We're going to have one of our new district captains, Mike Gibson's going to be on. We'll get to know him and introduce him and learn more about him. And we're still working on adding some more guests on that evening. So that's what's planned for September 4th. Now, in the meantime, on August 28th is our next roundtable. And that's where we change the format and we do a panel discussion. And the topic is going to be human trafficking. Probably not much to say about that at all. Do you think?
Oh, why would you think that? Why would you think that?
I have no idea. I don't think that. I don't think that. No, I think that'll be very interesting. We'll have a lot to say. As a matter of fact, we're getting. We may be expanding the roundtable to have more of these because the list of possible topics, Ken, is getting longer and longer, it seems.
Yeah, it can't keep up with it. I know.
I know. Or I don't know what we're going to do, but I think we need to do something to try and address more and more of these topics that are popping up in our world, and they need to be discussed. They need to be discussed.
People want to hear more about it, Dale. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We also, as we mentioned with Brett earlier, we do a podcast here in Indiana, COS Indiana Live podcast. It's called COS Indiana Live Voices, and it can be found on Spotify.com as well as some other platforms. But we need to get another one on the books here, Ken, very soon. We keep saying that.
We're talking about that. We're going to have to enlist them and get them done. I hear you.
Yeah. But we'll get her done here. But that's COS Indiana Live Voices. All right. Well, Ken, I think we're going to wrap it up here this evening. I do want to mention before we sign off here our email address, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So if you have a question or comment that you didn't get to make tonight afterwards, then feel free to drop us an email, raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. And we'll certainly, Ken and I check those every day. We'll be looking and we'll respond to you, most certainly. Well, Ken, I think that's it for this evening.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I'm glad you were able to escape the borderline of Illinois and get back to Indiana.
Yes,
that they didn't retain you for any reason, and
no, they didn't. They
that's
didn't.
good. Good to know. Good to know.
It was going to really get hot there, so I'm glad to head back here.
Good.
All right. Well, Ken, we're going to close out with a video here from Mark Meckler. And after the video is over, then the broadcast will end. So I want to say good night to everyone. Ken, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Yeah.
Thank you for everyone that viewed tonight. Appreciate your support. So thank you very much.
Good night now.
Good night.
I struggle to empathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety and security over liberty, over the animating fight for liberty, I hope that you enjoy licking the hands that feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are our countrymen. Like, do you understand that your kids and you are sentencing your kids and your grandkids and your friends' kids and your neighbors' kids to a lifetime of slavery and servitude, literally, of fear, of living in the darkness, but never, ever, never, never, never give up. George Washington lost the majority of his battles that he fought in the American Revolution. If you read his writings, if you read the letters where he was writing to Congress asking for money and troops, he was saying, we're losing. I don't have the troops I need. I don't have the supplies I need. Did he quit? What about the guys on the beach at Normandy? Like, what did they do? Did they just quit? Oh, there's, a lot of guys are dying around me. It's really bad. It looks really dismal. Those cliffs are huge. Machine gun fire raining down on us. And it's too hard. We should just quit. Thank God those people didn't quit. If they had, where would we be? I get discouraged, for sure. And I will quit fighting at some point. And that point is when the first shovel of dirt hits the top of my box 6 feet down.